It started with the kind of screams you only hear when things go sideways in the real world, not some cheesy horror flick. Real panic pajamas, flapping people running out into the street with wild eyes and bedhead. One neighbor yelling that her smart oven wouldn't shut off, another pounding on his Tesla like it owed him money. Someone in the distance sobbing over a Zoom call that died mid-presentation. My phone was lighting up with text after text. No Wi-Fi, my cameras are down, the smart lock's not working, and then just one message, all caps. Help! You know what I mean? The kind of chaos that tells you deep in your bones this is going to be one of those days you never forget. But here's the thing, I already knew what happened before most of them did. That morning, on my way back from picking up a new router battery backup, I saw the culprit sitting right there in broad daylight, a big yellow bulldozer, dust swirling around its treads, parked like it had conquered the place. Next to it was a pile of splintered wood, metal, and fiber cables, the remains of my tool shed, which was, well, let's just say, not exactly a regular shed. And there, standing with all the smug pride in the world, was Karen, HOA president extraordinaire, holding her clipboard like it was the Ten Commandments and she was Moses come down from the mountain. She had no clue what she'd just done. She thought she'd gotten rid of some non-compliant storage. What she bulldozed, though, was the heart of the entire neighborhood's internet, and she was about to find out the hard way. See, most people around here think the suburbs are boring, but I've learned that all it takes is one power-hungry neighbor with too much time and not enough sense to turn normal Saturday mornings into full-blown disasters. I had built a private mesh network, spent 2 years of weekends setting it up because the HOA's rules banned all the visible tech infrastructure, no dishes, no boxes, no nothing. But I worked in IT for years and, yeah, I got creative. The shed. It wasn't just my man cave. It was the network's control node hidden in plain sight, and most importantly, totally legal under federal rules. I'd even posted tiny plaques warning, but, well, you know how some people are. So when Karen brought in that bulldozer, probably paid for with HOA funds because why not, and flattened the shed, she didn't just break some boards. She yanked the plug on every single smart device on our street. At first, nobody noticed. Then garage doors got stuck, thermostats froze, smart TVs blinked off, and the Ring doorbells, the real security for half the families here, all went dark. Even Karen's. I watched her from my porch sipping my coffee as her "I'm in charge" attitude crumpled into panic. She screamed at the air, shook her phone, demanded answers, but there were none. All anyone could do was gather in the street looking at each other like, "Did you get knocked offline too?" I just pointed to this crater where my shed used to be. My neighbor Gerald, everyone's favorite narrator, filled them in. Karen bulldozed it, said it broke some code, didn't even ask. And suddenly the whole block was buzzing. People stormed off toward her house demanding answers, their faith in the HOA dying by the minute. What Karen didn't realize was I had all the receipts. My driveway camera, which ran on a backup cell link, caught every second the bulldozer rolling up, Karen waving her clipboard, the crew ignoring the federal telecom sign, and that moment the bucket smashed the relay. I knew right then this wasn't just a Karen problem. It was about to become a legal one. Still, I waited. Sometimes letting things unravel naturally is the best revenge. By sundown, the neighborhood was in meltdown. No Wi-Fi, grocery deliveries lost, the HOA's own records gone because, ironically, Karen made us switch to my network for better security. The irony was almost too perfect. Karen came outside waving a megaphone, blaming regional outages, and then for good measure blaming me directly. That's when Gerald, bless him, piped up, "You bulldozed his shed, Karen." That was the hub. The color drained from her face like someone unplugged her too. Back inside, I fired up my laptop, opened my folder labeled contingency, and started preparing my report. Not for the HOA. For the city, the FCC, the infrastructure board that had co-funded my project, the whole 9 yards. Karen had poked the bear, and this bear knew how to write an airtight report. The next morning, chaos turned into desperation. Neighbors holding tablets that wouldn't load, baby monitors flashing errors, some poor guy sweating over his crypto rigs overheating because the smart cooling died. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. And Karen. She was out in her pink visor and tennis shoes telling everyone it was a regional outage. I just kept my mouth shut and let her dig her own grave. See, this wasn't the first time Karen had played queen. She'd started with mailbox paint, then banned garden gnomes, fined a couple for leaving Christmas lights up an extra day, all those little power moves. But this time she went too far. I'd kept a low profile for years, quietly keeping everyone's stuff running better than the official provider. Now everyone remembered who'd made things work and who'd just burned it all down. By lunch, homemade. Bring back the internet signs went up all over the clubhouse. People started putting it together, the shed, the sudden tech upgrades. When I moved in, the fact that for years their smart TVs had stopped buffering. Karen, meanwhile, stood in front of the clubhouse insisting I was running an illegal tech storage unit. It would have been hilarious if people weren't so pissed. That afternoon, a city inspector showed up. I'd been expecting it. Louise was his name, boots, dusty vest, half-zipped. I handed him blueprints, permits, a fat folder from the FCC. When he saw the federal permits, he just sighed and said, "That lady may have just bought herself a very big problem." That night, the HOA called an emergency meeting. Karen strutted in with a PowerPoint blaming me for everything. She said my shed was a spy hub, accused me of installing military-grade surveillance, all but accused me of being a secret agent. Gerald, with his popcorn, whispered, "Somebody give her an Oscar." When she finished, I walked up, plugged a USB drive into the projector, and calmly ran through 10 minutes of evidence photos of the shed video, of the demolition timestamps, FCC paperwork, usage logs, everything. The room fell silent except for Sandy, who finally piped up. "So if that shed ran all our internet, why would she destroy it?" Gerald answered. "Because it wasn't HOA approved and she can't stand not being in charge." Laughter broke out, but not the friendly kind. Right then a courier stepped in, handed Karen a thick envelope, cease and desist straight from the state. The look on her face was something to behold. She sat down so fast I thought she'd faint. But you know, Karen, she wasn't done. 2 days later, she was at every door handing out flyers, blaming me for the blackout, calling me a cyber vigilante, painting herself as the hero who bravely destroyed unauthorized tech. Problem was, nobody believed her. Devices kept failing, backup systems overloaded, and the real breaking point came when an elderly woman's emergency alert bracelet went dead. Suddenly, this wasn't about Netflix. This was about safety. Karen's spin couldn't save her. I kept quiet, followed my lawyer's advice, documented everything. And at night I rebuilt not above ground this time, but below, armored, encrypted, undetectable. I even set the system to block one specific address range, Karen's house. Yeah, it was petty, but you gotta admit it felt good. Soon neighbors started knocking, asking if I could get them on the good Wi-Fi. I obliged discreetly. Karen, meanwhile, brought in her private infrastructure consultant, her cousin Dave, who usually sold old routers at the flea market. Dave marched around with a weird scanner, got excited by a pizza guy's phone, and after a while gave up. Karen accused me of running a secret network. I asked if she had a warrant. She stormed off, threatening legal action. Her big play was to file a complaint with the city, not knowing she was walking straight into an audit. Luis was ready and waiting. He calmly explained to her that not only was my project legal, but her demolition had violated several laws. Karen left with her jaw clenched so tight I thought she might break a tooth. She tried a petition to have me kicked out, not knowing my lot wasn't even in the HOA's jurisdiction. I just slid my old property deed through the door and let her stew. Neighbors laughed, wore Karen cut the cord t-shirts, and Gerald put up a support local internet sign. The tide had turned. Then came the forum, a tech safety meeting I organized, but really it was the HOA's reckoning. Gerald spoke, then Sandy, then me. No rants, just the truth diagrams and the law. The room was packed. When I finished, people clapped a real rolling applause. Karen nowhere to be seen. 2 days later, the news came calling, did a story on the neighborhood hero who saved the internet. The segment was clean, neighborly, devastating for Karen. Suddenly, the HOA couldn't ignore it. An emergency vote Karen out as president, barred from holding office, her nameplate gone that night. When she packed her things, it was almost sad, almost. I watched from across the street as she loaded up her car visor, missing clipboard, nowhere in sight a shadow of her former self. She didn't say a word, just drove off, leaving a street full of relieved neighbors and one withered flower bed. The new family moved in a week later, a couple twin toddlers and a golden retriever named Butters. I handed them the Wi-Fi password, wished them luck, and told them, if you ever have tech trouble, you know where to find me. The HOA, now led by a sweet old librarian named Judy, rewrote the rules, let people install what they needed, and even partnered with me to expand the network. I got a letter from the State Infrastructure Board, a thank you for unseen service, and every time I log into the system, I see my secret Easter egg shed guardian active. Just a little reminder of how it all started, how one bulldozer and a clipboard woke up a neighborhood and took down a would-be tyrant. So I'll leave it there. What do you think? Was I wrong for fighting back the way I did, or was justice finally served in our little corner of suburbia? I'd love to hear your take. Comment below and tell me where you stand on HOA drama power trips and doing the right thing even when it gets a little messy.